Happy 1 week anniversary. Happy Tuesday, everybody. So the trailer for Mission Impossible 8 just premiered. In this latest installment, Tom Cruise faces his most impossible mission yet: find a job for Kamala Harris. Yeah, in 2025, it looks like Republicans will now control the Senate, the House, and the White House. Yeah. Meanwhile, the only thing that Democrats still control is Rashida Tlaib's shock collar. Donald Trump has named Kristi Noem as his Secretary of Homeland Security. Wow. Okay. As a result, you'll never guess who's threatening to move to Canada. We're not going to let that slide yet. 13 monkeys are still on the loose in South Carolina after a dramatic escape last week from a research facility. In related news, guess who came down with monkeypox? He's their senator, you know? Meanwhile, the remaining 30 monkeys are already back in the lab testing a cure for baldness, much to the relief of this man. George Clooney is taking a step back from politics after being blamed for Kamala's loss. He says he's going to stay out of the public eye by continuing to make movies. Looks like Chris Wallace is leaving CNN. Yeah. Wallace says it's an effort to better identify with CNN's viewing audience. Made you think, didn't it? The more you know. And Mattel is pulling thousands of Wicked dolls off the shelf because the package contains the address for a porn site. No apology necessary, said one happy customer. I don't get that joke, but maybe I'm not supposed to. So 4 years ago, Joe Biden made Kamala Harris the border czar. Then when she did nothing, the legacy media insisted she never was the border czar, as if we were the ones with dementia. After 4 years of chaos at the southern border and illegal alien criminals creating havoc on America's streets, President-elect Donald Trump announced that Tom Homan, his former director of ICE, Homan will be the new border czar. He'll be in charge of all deportation of illegals back to their countries of origin. Of course, this won't be popular among the usual suspects, but I wonder if Homan cares what people think about him, especially on the left.
Frankly, I don't care what people think about me, especially on the left. So I don't care what anybody's opinion is on illegal immigration. When you create a crisis this big, all these other bad things happen. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or independent. So border security is national security.
So he doesn't care what people think of him. Just look at him. Do you doubt him? I mean, look up the phrase "doesn't give a," and you're going to find that picture. I mean, he'll make migrants turn back just by glaring at him. I'm scared. He scares me, and I'm a citizen. But it's clear he's not angling for his next job, just the one he's been hired to do right now. And sooner the better. Millions of illegal aliens flooded our southern border over the past 4 years because Joe welcomed them like they weren't his 5th grandchild. They got debit cards, hotel rooms, even the option of sex changes in prison, no less. Hell, even I would take the sex change. I mean, it's free. I don't want it, but it's free. Like free stuff. But if they listened to the incoming president then, and he didn't even speak English, I bet they'll listen to this one now. It's possible that millions will leave on their own just out of fear of getting arrested. You know, like a lot of us do at Kudlow's house right before animal control arrives. So how will the opposition respond? As always, with language, and it's all about the mass.
The mass deportations that Donald Trump has promised.
The mass deportation pledge that Trump has promised this time around.
Trump's new border czar, who will be tasked with carrying out Trump's mass deportation promises.
The plans for mass deportation.
How Trump will fund this mass deportation plan.
A lot of people thought that when he talked about mass deportations, he wasn't being serious. He was absolutely serious. What it means is grandmothers. What it means is brothers and aunts. Yep. What it means is abuelos y abuelas. It means dreamers. It means family members.
What's Spanish for chill pill? The only dreamer I see is Anna dreaming about eating a box of Oreos. But you see the grift? It's not deportations, it's mass deportations. Emphasis on mass. They've done this before. When the left created hate speech, it was to go after speech by leading with hate. When they came up with assault rifle, it was to go after the gun while playing up the assault. And here, it's distract from deportation by playing up the mass, which raises a question. Can the media tell us the cutoff between mass and not mass? Have they ever given us the difference between mass and just regular old deportations? They never did the math. Then again, no one ever asks. And most of them can't count higher than the number of the remaining refills for Zoloft. Somehow it wasn't mass deportations when Obama did it. You didn't hear the cattle at the View calling him a fascist. Then again, it's hard to understand people when they have a mouthful of field grass. So what's the answer, all you smarty pants? How many people do you allow in every year? Personally, I say 500, and they must know deep tissue massage and look great in athletic gear. But the number can change every year based on what the country needs and what it can handle. It's not a people question, it's an economic one. Everything in life has limits and amounts. You don't pour a 12-ounce beer into a shot glass. And you don't squeeze a circus bear into a size 2 pair of overalls. Now, we know that the left understands limits. In California, with smash and grab thefts, they created a $950 threshold. If you didn't exceed it, then it was only a misdemeanor. That's why in California, my book cost $951. It's odd. The left are happy to decide how much of a bad thing we could endure, but they're flummoxed by good behavior. So just for kicks, ask someone, what's the number you're okay with? They can't give you one, because they hold your beliefs to absurd standards. When the left gets into power under the guise of centrism, they move easily to the left. When the right gains power under the same promise of centrism, they cannot move to the right at all. Which means any action to gain control of the border will be defined as intolerable, even if it's pure common sense, which is good news for us. We realize nothing we do will be popular, and that's freeing. AOC can cry, the media can call us fascists. We don't give a You guys, you were the guys that threw this kegger while mommy and daddy were on vacation, and now the adults are home, and it's time to clean up the mess that you made. Let's welcome tonight's guest. All the voters want to build a wall around his act. Writer and comedian Jamie Lissow. She could write an encyclopedia on how to handle the media. Republican strategist Erin Perini. She's almost a MILF, a mom I'd love to fire. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor Kat Tiff. And I use his underwear to go parachuting. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA champion Tyrus. That guy right there. That's, yeah. So, Jamie, this is where I relate this topic to your crumbled marriage. It seems that the czar has a don't give a damn attitude. Does that remind you of your ex-wife and how she felt about your marriage?
I relate to a lot of this stuff, being separated from your family. And I'm here legally. I was voted 4-1 to deport. Tom Homan, I love the way he looks. He certainly looks the part. I heard he auditioned for The Sopranos, and they said he looked too dangerous. Too dangerous to be. I think it's kind of funny when they go, oh, they're going to deport, like, grandmothers. There's probably grandmothers that are criminals. People get older and have kids that have kids.
Yes.
Right? You don't get a free pass. There's a lot. You see an old guy, you always go, oh, that's a nice old guy. No, get older.
Yes.
There's some.
Charles Manson, he died at 82. He looked so kindly when he died.
Murdering grandpa.
Yeah.
Is what he is. Absolutely. And The View, what The View said about, like, they said they were being so alarmist, like they're going to deport U.S. citizens. That's not what he said. They're trying to, they're so, they're literally a bunch of big fat liars. They really are. Did I ever tell you that once I was on, I shouldn't even say, once I was on a cruise ship, and one of the members of The View was on the cruise ship. I'm not going to say which one. And she looked a lot bigger in person. And I shouldn't even say, seriously, we were at a port, and like we were stopped, and she was standing off to my right and left, and I was looking off. I was looking into the water, and this whale came up out of the ocean, snapped a picture of her. He goes back into the water. I don't know. I hope when they refer to mass deportation, they're just talking about those 4 women.
Aaron. I think, like, The View and others think that this tough stance is a negative. They don't seem to realize it's a positive to the Trump voters.
It's a positive to the majority of the American people who elected Donald Trump president. They are sick and tired of having a callous open border. They see communities in the South that are being decimated. They know that most states in the United States feel like border communities now because of fentanyl getting into the United States. But one thing that you continue to see from a left-wing media propaganda stance is this mass deportation versus, well, I don't even know if you're going to have enough people for mass deportation. And are you going to have enough money? They're trying to whataboutisms to failure on the front end. Oh, so you are going to deport let's just start with the over 1 million people who have already been adjudicated through the justice system and have deportation orders. Is 1 million people mass enough for you, to your point? Or is that not enough people? Or is that too much? They're going to play this both ways. You're not going to have enough money. You're going to deport too many, not enough people. Because at the end of the day, the idea of removing the people that should not be here in the United States is baseline something they cannot understand.
Yeah, and it's weird. Kat, this does seem like a real, like, if you got, like, just economists, Republican and Democrat in the room, they would figure it out in an hour. But they never do that. They never actually ask, what is good for this year? Why can't they do that?
I don't know, because for me, it's kind of simple. And for me, I feel like if you are a criminal, then you should leave. And I feel like it also paying for free stuff for people, I don't want to be doing that anymore, especially when there's so many people in our country that are suffering. But also, I feel like if you're two things, if you're nonviolent and you are self-sufficient, I don't see any reason why we should be spending money deporting you.
Yeah.
So we'll see how he does. To say that he said that he was going to deport citizens is crazy. He did not say that, right? But at the same time, as you pointed out, when you look at his face, it's like, if there was a face that made me feel like maybe I should start to learn Polish, it would be that guy's face.
Yes. What do you think, Tyrus?
Well, first of all, I think we have to consider the source when they complain. They've gotten everything wrong. They're the reason why this election was so one-sided. So keep peddling the that you're just not learning from your lessons. At least Wallace was gracious enough to know, like, I'm getting out.
Yeah.
Because we don't get it. So I'm going to hit the eject to save what's left of whatever journalist career or legacy I wanted to have. So I think that's the when they do say that. And also, I like the fact that this pick hire was the one also that was attacked nonstop. They tried to embarrass him at the Senate. They tried to, ICE needed to go. They wanted to abolish everything that they stood and worked for. So they're now, the person that they tried to bury is now back. And does he have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder? Yeah. Yeah, he does. And I would too. And the whole point of deportation is to get everyone that crossed illegally out so that we can focus on the ones who are coming in the country the right way.
Right.
Because there is a lot of reform that they're looking at, like for a lot of businesses, a lot of places that try to bring in good workers and visas, and that the lottery system and all those things that hurt them. This, while they're getting rid of that, they're going to make it easier for those who want to do it the right way to be rewarded. Well, it will no longer be a lottery and those type of things. So again, I hope he hits the ground running. I've spoken to him a couple times. I ran into him one time at the airport, and even at the airport, he was pissed off because and he was pissed off. Our flight was a little late. He was a little madder than the rest, but also, when you think about the people that they tried to ruin careers, and we're seeing some of them getting back to the positions they want. And those left-wing media should be afraid because now they've inspired him. So he's not just going to do it with a smile on his face. I don't think he has the ability to do that. But he's going to do it at a high level. And if you are a criminal, if you did cross here illegally, it would probably behoove you to start heading that way, because it's coming.
Be careful when you say behoove in front of The View. It means something totally different.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.